What is your official job title?
Campus Parking and Transportation Supervisor.
And how long have you been doing this?
4.5 years.
4.5. Were you involved in parking before?
No.
What were you doing before?
Just prior to this, I was a business consultant with Applebee's International. Spent about 30 years in the restaurant industry. Major chains. Owned my own place for a short period of time before I came here.
How old are you?
I'm not telling you that.
Where did you go to college?
Brockport, SUNY Brockport, MCC, and then SUNY Brockport.
So, you're from around here then?
Yeah, born and raised in Rochester. Lived out of state for about 10 years. You know, where work took me, and I've got 9 brothers and sisters, and had a little girl. Decided it was time to move back home so she could spend time with her family.
Excellent. What is something that most people would be surprised to know about parking services?
That actually we're not the bad guys. We really aren't. You know, people associate parking services with the guy that's going out there and giving you a citation. We do more than that. For an example, this week alone, you know, I have 88 student transports, individuals that are on crutches, wheelchairs, whatever, that my guys pick up and transport from their dorms to class, from the class back to dorms. You know, we do things such as tire inflations. You have a tire that's flat, we'll inflate the tires for you. You get your locks are frozen on the car, we carry de-icer. I mean, there's a lot of things that we do besides just issue citations. I don't think people realize that. You know?
They just see the ticket and they get upset.
You know, we're in Rochester, New York. In Rochester, New York, I think, you know, people, I don't know where you guys are from, but in Rochester, New York, people don't think, one, well, Rochester, we shouldn't have to pay to park in Rochester, right? And, you know, I'm going to school and I'm spending a good deal of money to go to school here. Parking should be included in it, right? And when we don't get a permit and then you get cited, now you're doubly aggravated, you know? You know, people generally don't want to come to the parking office because you come into the parking office, you're buying a permit that you don't need, that you don't feel as though you should have to pay for, or you're coming to the parking office usually because you're paying for a citation that you don't think you should have gotten to begin with. So we're not the most popular people on campus, to be quite honest.
Yeah. Financially, what are typical annual costs versus revenues that look like for Rochester? Does it bring any profits to the school?
Parking does not. Parking is a money loser, to be quite honest. We're actually running the red. Parking, we're very concerned about raising rates in parking. There's really 2 different philosophies. The medical center parking rates are significantly higher than ours right now, and that's because medical center runs it. You know, it's a business, it's a profit center. Let's face it, you have to make money to stay in business. The university approach, administration and university, is, hey, you know, we want to keep our rates as low as possible. People have to park in order to work here, and people have to park in order to go to school here. We don't want to make money off them. My boss will tell me every time we go, I talk to him, your job is not to make money. Your job is to be a customer service organization.
What's the biggest cost for?
Maintenance, labor and maintenance. I mean, you know, to have a lot, for an example, I redid Valentine lot, I think it was last year or the year before. It was an $80,000 project, just redoing that lot. Lighting is very expensive. You know, I probably spend $4,000 to $5,000 a month on lighting, and that's not counting utilities. That's just the maintenance and the repair and upkeep of all parking lot lights we have out.
All right. You mentioned that that students kind of look at parking as the bad guy, I think is how you put it.
Yeah.
And from a lot of the students that we talk to, there's a lot of war stories. What are the most common complaints that you deal with on a regular basis?
I was only in there for 5 minutes. You know, I had to drop something off, and I went in there for 5 minutes, and I really wasn't parked there. That's a big one. If somebody gets a wheel locked, how come I was never notified? Well, we don't wheel lock an individual until they have minimum 4 citations. My philosophy is you've been notified 4 times. You probably should have reacted to the citations you had. Those are probably the biggest complaints.
Something that people have told me is that if you don't pay off your parking tickets, they don't let you graduate. Is that true? Is that a myth?
That could happen, but no. I've never stopped anybody. Been close ones, but never stopped anybody. What will happen, though, if you don't pay them, is a hold will be put on your account, and you won't be able to receive your transcripts.
Oh, okay.
Okay. But I've never stopped anybody from walking because they had parking citations.
Do you set a quota for your parking?
Absolutely not. Nope. I'll tell you, I took over this department 4.5 years ago. And 4.5 years ago when I came in, when I walked into this department. Sitting in my office, I'm thinking, what did I get myself into? Because I'm in the office and just about everybody came through that door, there's an argument, there's a fight. You know, because that's how the old department functioned. My goal when I came in was to turn it into a customer service operation. We're not here to beat you here. We've got an obligation to everybody on campus. And we certainly have an obligation to those who purchase a permit and park where they should be parking. And that's where enforcement comes in. You know, enforcement, if you guys have a car on campus, and I know you've had a fair share of citations, those of you that park on campus, you know, the first time you get a citation, you come in, and we generally take it away. Hey, listen, this is, you know, we want you to come in so we can talk to you and tell you, hey, if there's a problem, there's concern, let's get it straightened out. But I would tell you, you'd be mighty surprised at the percentage of citations that are reduced to warnings or voided out.
Well, you seem like a very affable and empathetic guy. Does people complaining, does that take its toll on you emotionally? Do you get upset?
You know, not really, and I'll tell you why, Eric. I really don't get that many complaints anymore. When I first started, we did. We really did. But, you know, one of the things I think to my advantage is I come from a customer service background. Two is, you know, when I started, my daughter was in college at the same time. So, when, you know, I understand, you know, her first day she got a parking ticket. She never told me about it. She took care of herself, but she got a parking ticket. Things happen, you know, and I used to preach to my staff, they're not bad people. We make some, you know, bad choices at times. Doesn't make them bad people. I went to college, and I'll tell you what, if I was to try to get my transcript today, I don't know if I'd get it, because there were many times where I went to school late, and I had to find a place to park, and I parked where I shouldn't. You know, I remember at one time, my dad wasn't going to get his. My brother, like I said, I have 9 brothers and sisters. Most of my brothers and sisters weren't going to get theirs. They didn't even go to school there. I just happened to be driving their car that day because I didn't want to get, you know, towed out because I had a bunch of tickets. So I understand where that's coming from. And I'll tell you, I am empathetic. When somebody comes into the office, you know, we lock your car. I want you to have your car back. I don't gain anything by having your car. I do not gain any money. Somebody doesn't pay those citations. The other option is we have that vehicle towed to East Avenue Auto. Towed to East Avenue Auto, then you get hit with a $100 fee, and then you get hit with a $20-some-odd a day storage charge until you get it. And they won't release that to you until you pay what you owe the parking department. And my staff will tell you, and they yell at me sometimes because I go out of my way to avoid having that vehicle towed. Whether it's calling you, writing you, emailing you, giving you an extra day, whatever I got to do. So I don't want that to happen. You know, I take no satisfaction in that whatsoever.
All right, last question. What's the craziest story that you can tell us from your experience here in the past 5 years? Do you have any fun?
Yeah, we had one student who, I can tell you the thousands of dollars he accumulated in fines. The amount of times that he was wheel locked in the office, the amount of battles that my staff went with, had experience with him. Graduation was that Sunday. Friday, he showed up in the office with this huge cake that he gave the staff. Wanted to thank him for putting him up with 4 years, and just wanted to let us know that was, I can't remember what he told us, like a $4,200 cake that he gave us to the fines. And I also had one student. There was a period of time, I don't know if you guys were here, where we weren't wheel locking vehicles on campus, which when I came here, I was adamantly opposed to wheel locking. I really was. Did not want to wheel lock any vehicle. So I was glad that there was a short moratorium on it. Somebody challenged our legal rights to wheel lock. Well, the city was taking a look into that. We went through over a year, I think, where we weren't allowed to wheel lock vehicles. Finally, the city came back and said, yes, we're grandfathered in, we can go ahead and wheel lock. Well, we had one individual who accumulated over $17,000 in fines during that period.
How do you do that?
He would, park from. There were times he'd have $1,000 a day going from one handicapped space to the next. Always very nice, always very polite. Waves to guys, hi, how you doing? But he'd park there anyways, and it was absolutely amazing. But we weren't wheel locking at the time, and we really do try to avoid towing. We will, but we try to avoid towing. So finally I got a hold of the guy and said, listen, I said, I got permission. We're going to tow your vehicle. So he came, I met him up in the office, we talked, very respectful. I said, listen, tell you what, you need to get a permit, and we need to do something about these fines. We'll get a promissory note going. I said, well, I'm going into the service, my signing bonus is going to be $11,000, I'll make sure you get that, on and on and on and on. Said, all right, so he signed it, shook my hand, gave me his word, which I do with a lot of people. I'll make sure the payments are in time, went out door, didn't see him again. He started parking up on Wilson Boulevard. So I'm out there one day with the guys, checking the meters, and I see him walking up and down the street, pacing up and down the street. He's looking for his car. Well, unfortunately, he had several $1,000s worth of fines out with the city. And while he was parked on Wilson Boulevard, the city came and took his car to the city impound. Well, it was probably a good thing I was in my office time, because the staff said he came pounding through that door. He was a big guy. He was your height and probably another 60 pounds on top of that. Finally, I come out, he comes up to me out there and goes, "What'd you do with my car?" I said, "Listen," I said, "I did absolutely nothing with the car." I said, "You really need to contact the city, because you were parked on city property, they probably took your car." And they did. And he came up with a couple $1,000. To this day, I'm still waiting on that $17,000 that he was gonna send me, so. And that's a high side, I think it was like 17,800